Why do some people naturally resist wasteful spending, while others struggle with every purchase decision, even when they earn similar incomes? While most financial advice focuses on budgets and investment strategies, the real difference often comes down to psychological habits that wealthy people develop almost unconsciously. Here's what conventional money advice misses. Your relationship with spending is largely mental, not mathematical. Some people have developed thought patterns that naturally protect them from financial mistakes, while others fight constant internal battles about every purchase decision. Over the next few minutes, I'll reveal 7 psychological spending patterns that can improve your financial decisions, though these approaches require honest assessment about which ones actually fit your life and income level. The 5th principle shows how changing your financial language can completely transform your relationship with money. If you want practical spending psychology without obsessive tracking, subscribe and comment "Mindful Money" below. But that's just the beginning. What I'm about to reveal shows why the craftsman's time-value exchange explains the difference between impulsive and intentional spending decisions. 1. Measuring purchases in hours worked. Most of us have completely disconnected the price tags we see from the actual effort it takes to earn that money. We walk into stores seeing numbers that feel abstract: $50, $200, $1,000, without connecting them to the hours of our lives we traded to earn those dollars. This disconnect makes it way too easy to spend money on things we'll regret later. You know this feeling when you buy something expensive impulsively, then later think, "I can't believe I spent that much." It's like your brain temporarily forgot that money represents your time and energy, not just numbers in an account. Let me tell you about 2 craftsmen who approached their purchases completely differently. The hasty buyer saw prices as abstract numbers that had no connection to his daily work. When he wanted something, he'd just check if he had enough money and buy it without much thought. Shopping felt easy and disconnected from his actual labor. The time-conscious trader had developed a different habit. Before any major purchase, he'd convert the price into work hours. That $1,200 tool became 3 full days of skilled work after taxes. Suddenly, every purchase decision involved asking whether he'd rather have the item or have those days of his life back. The solution is simple but powerful. Start converting major purchases into your actual work time. Take your after-tax hourly wage and divide any significant expense by that number. A $600 weekend trip becomes 16 hours of work. A $300 dinner becomes 8 hours at your desk. Here's what you can do starting today. Before any purchase over $100, calculate how many hours you'd need to work to earn that money back after taxes. Just do the math once and sit with that number for a minute. You don't need to talk yourself out of every purchase, but knowing the real cost helps you make more intentional decisions. The mindset shift you need is this. Money isn't just numbers in your account. It's stored time and energy from your life. When you spend money, you're trading hours of your life for whatever you're buying. That doesn't mean you should never spend money or feel guilty about purchases. It just means being more conscious about which trades feel worth it and which ones you might regret later. Use this tool for major purchases, not for every coffee or lunch. 2. Planting windfalls instead of spending gua. When unexpected money hits your account, a tax refund, bonus gift, or side hustle payment, your brain immediately starts planning how to spend it. It feels like free money, separate from your regular budget, so the natural impulse is to treat yourself to something special. But this immediate gratification often leaves you wondering where that money went a few months later. You've probably experienced this yourself. That $1,500 tax refund gets spent on a vacation, new clothes, or random purchases that felt exciting at the time, but don't create any lasting value. Meanwhile, you're still struggling with the same financial challenges you had before the windfall appeared. Let me tell you about 2 farmers who handled unexpected harvests completely differently. The harvest celebrant viewed any bonus crop as permission to feast and celebrate. When his fields produced more than expected, he'd immediately consume the extra or trade it for immediate pleasures. His approach felt natural. Unexpected abundance should be enjoyed, right? The future planner took a different approach with surplus harvests. He'd celebrate and enjoy some of the unexpected bounty, but he'd also carefully select the best seeds from that bonus crop to plant for next season. This meant less immediate gratification, but it created bigger harvests in future years. The solution is developing a windfall pause. That moment when unexpected money arrives and you ask yourself, what could this become if I planted part of it instead of consuming it all? This doesn't mean never enjoying windfalls, but it means making conscious choices about the split. Here's something practical you can try. Create a simple rule for unexpected money. Maybe it's 50-50. Half for something you enjoy now, half for investing. Or 70-30 if you want to be more aggressive about building wealth. The exact split matters less than having a predetermined plan, so you're not making purely emotional decisions in the moment. The mindset shift you need is this. Unexpected money isn't permission to spend. It's an opportunity to choose between present enjoyment and future security. Both have value, and you can have some of each. The key is making that choice consciously, rather than automatically defaulting to immediate spending. This approach requires having your basic needs met first. If you're struggling financially, using windfalls for necessities or debt reduction might be the smartest choice. 3. Wealth on autopilot through gradual increases. Most people approach building wealth like they're training for a marathon. They go from zero to dramatic lifestyle changes overnight, then burn out within a few months when the motivation fades. You decide to save $500 more per month, meal prep every Sunday, and cut out all entertainment spending. It works for about 6 weeks, then life gets busy and you're back to your old habits. This all-or-nothing approach creates a cycle of financial guilt and frustration. You know you should be saving more, but every attempt at dramatic change feels unsustainable. Meanwhile, you watch your financial goals slip further away because you can't seem to stick with any plan long enough for it to work. Let me tell you about 2 engineers who approached system improvements completely differently. The dramatic renovator would shut down entire sections of infrastructure to install major upgrades all at once. His changes were impressive and got a lot of attention, but they often caused system crashes and had to be rolled back when problems emerged. The incremental builder made small improvements that operated automatically within existing systems. His changes were barely noticeable day to day, but they ran reliably in the background and created steady improvements over time without disrupting normal operations. The solution is making tiny adjustments that happen automatically. Instead of trying to save $500 more per month, increase your automatic savings by $50. Your brain barely notices the difference, but you're $600 richer at the end of the year. Once that feels normal, bump it up another $50. Here's what you can do this week. Log into your banking app and increase one automatic transfer by the smallest amount that won't stress your budget. Maybe it's $25 more to savings or 1% more to your 401k. The goal isn't to make a dramatic impact immediately. It's to prove to yourself that gradual upgrades work without disrupting your life. The mindset shift you need is this. Sustainable financial progress happens below the threshold of daily awareness. When changes feel effortless, they stick. When they require constant willpower, they fail. Think of yourself as upgrading your financial operating system rather than completely rebuilding it. Small systematic improvements compound over years, while dramatic changes usually crash within months. This approach requires having some disposable income to work with, but even tiny improvements create momentum that makes bigger changes feel possible later. 4. Maintaining funds for unexpected chances. Life's best opportunities often come with tight deadlines and require immediate action. A friend starts a business and needs investors by Friday. A course that could advance your career has limited spots. A property deal won't last the weekend. But when these moments arrive, most people have to watch them pass by because all their money is already allocated to bills, savings goals, or emergency funds. You've probably felt this frustration, seeing an amazing opportunity, but having to say no because you don't have accessible cash that isn't earmarked for something else. Meanwhile, someone else jumps on the chance and benefits from what you couldn't afford to pursue, even though you recognized its value. Let me tell you about two traders who manage their resources completely differently. The inventory-bound trader kept every dollar working in his current business, maximizing immediate returns and efficiency. His approach seemed smart, no idle money sitting around earning nothing. But when unexpected opportunities arose, he couldn't move quickly because all his capital was tied up. The flexible investor maintained some liquid reserves specifically for time-sensitive opportunities. This money looked inefficient because it wasn't generating immediate returns, but it gave him the ability to say yes when others had to say no. When opportunities appeared, he could act while competitors were still figuring out how to free up funds. The solution is creating what you might call an opportunity fund. Money that's separate from your emergency fund and regular savings goals. This isn't money for vacations or planned purchases. It's specifically for unexpected chances that could meaningfully impact your life or career. Here's the reality check. This strategy only works if you have disposable income beyond meeting basic needs and building emergency savings first. If you're struggling financially, focus on stability before worrying about opportunity funds. But if you have some financial cushion, consider setting aside a small amount each month, specifically for unexpected chances. The mindset shift you need is understanding that some money's value comes from flexibility, not just growth. That $2,000 sitting in an opportunity fund might not be earning much interest, but its real value is in the doors it keeps open. This approach requires financial privilege that not everyone has, and that's important to acknowledge. Don't feel inadequate if you can't implement this strategy. Prioritize your basic financial security first. 5. Choice-based rather than limitation-based language. The words you use about money create a psychological story that either empowers you or makes you feel like a victim of your circumstances. Most people automatically say, "I can't afford it," when declining expensive invitations or purchases, which constantly reinforces a narrative of limitation and financial helplessness. This language makes you sound broke, even when you're making smart financial choices. You've probably noticed how deflating it feels to keep announcing your financial constraints to friends and family. Every "I can't afford it" feels like admitting failure or inadequacy, even when you're actually being responsible with your money. Meanwhile, others might judge your financial situation based on these constant declarations of limitation. Let me tell you about two philosophers who discussed their resources completely differently. The scarcity speaker constantly announced financial limitations through every conversation. "I can't afford that restaurant. I don't have money for travel. That's too expensive for me." His language reinforced a story of financial constraint that became part of his identity. The agency advocate framed identical situations as intentional choices. "I'm prioritizing other things right now. I'm choosing not to spend on that. That doesn't align with my current financial goals." Same financial reality, but completely different psychological positioning. The solution is simple but powerful. Replace limitation language with choice language. Instead of "I can't afford it," try "I'm choosing not to spend on that right now," or "That's not in my budget this month." Instead of "I'm broke," try "I'm being intentional with my spending." Here's something you can practice this week. Catch yourself using limitation-based money language and consciously reframe it as a choice. You don't need to explain your entire financial situation. Just shift from announcing constraints to acknowledging decisions. The mindset shift you need is understanding that language shapes psychology, and psychology shapes behavior. When you speak like someone with agency and options, you start thinking and acting like someone with agency and options. This doesn't magically create more money, but it does preserve your sense of control and dignity around financial decisions. Important reality check. This language shift works best when you actually do have choices. If you're genuinely struggling financially, focus on improving your actual situation rather than just changing how you talk about it. But for most people making reasonable financial decisions, this reframe reduces the psychological burden of responsible spending choices. 6. Buying time for higher value activities. Time is the one resource you can never get back, but most people treat it like it's infinite while guarding their money like it's precious. You'll spend 3 hours researching to save $20 on a purchase, then waste entire weekends on tasks that someone else could handle for $50. This backward prioritization keeps you busy with low-value activities instead of focusing on what actually moves your life forward. You know this frustration. Spending your Saturday cleaning, doing laundry, grocery shopping and running errands, then feeling like you never have time for the important stuff like learning new skills, working on side projects, or just recharging. Meanwhile, your valuable time gets consumed by tasks that don't require your specific abilities. Let me tell you about 2 scholars pursuing their research differently. The task accumulator handled every routine activity personally, believing it saved money and showed discipline. He spent hours each week on cleaning, shopping, and administrative work, leaving little time for actual research or writing that advanced his career. The focus protector calculated the opportunity cost of routine tasks and purchased time through services. He paid for grocery delivery, cleaning service, and administrative help, then invested those freed hours in research and writing that generated significantly more value than the services cost. The solution requires honest math about the value of your time. If you earn $50 per hour and spend 3 hours cleaning what a service could do for $80, you're essentially working for $27 per hour during your free time. For many people, buying back that time makes economic sense. Critical reality check. This strategy only works if you have substantial disposable income and can actually use the freed time productively. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, obviously handle these tasks yourself. If you just waste the extra time on Netflix, you're not really investing in anything valuable. Here's what higher earners can consider. Identify one routine task that consumes significant time and research the cost of outsourcing it. If the math makes sense and you'd use the time productively, try it for a month as an experiment. The mindset shift you need is understanding that time is your most limited resource, and protecting it can be worth more than protecting money. This isn't about being lazy or showing off. It's about strategic resource allocation. However, this approach requires financial privilege that most people don't have. And there's nothing wrong with handling tasks yourself when outsourcing isn't financially viable. 7. Happiness, budget, and ownership thinking. Most people spend money impulsively, then either forget about purchases completely or feel vague regret without understanding why some expenses feel worth it while others don't. You buy things that seem appealing in the moment, but you never stop to notice which purchases actually improve your life and which ones just clutter your space or create buyer's remorse. This creates a cycle where you keep making the same spending mistakes because you're not learning from experience. You might repeatedly buy clothes you never wear, subscribe to services you forget about, or spend money on activities that don't actually make you happier, all because you're not connecting spending decisions to their actual outcomes. Let me tell you about 2 people who handled their purchases completely differently. The impulse accumulator made buying decisions based on immediate attraction without any follow-up reflection. She'd get excited about purchases in the moment, then move on to the next thing without ever considering whether her spending choices were actually serving her well. The intentional investor occasionally reflected on her recent purchases, mentally noting which ones created lasting satisfaction versus temporary excitement. That $200 concert ticket still made her smile months later, while the $80 impulse buy from an Instagram ad sat unused in a drawer. She was building her own personal database of what money could actually buy her. The solution is simple: occasional reflection, not obsessive tracking. Maybe once a month, think back on your recent purchases and notice which ones you're still glad you made. This isn't about judging every coffee or creating elaborate spreadsheets. It's about gradually learning what spending patterns actually align with your values. Here's something you can try without it becoming stressful. When you're considering a purchase over $50, ask yourself, will I still be glad I bought this in 3 months? After making the purchase, occasionally check back on that prediction. You'll start noticing patterns about what kinds of spending create lasting satisfaction versus temporary impulses. The mindset shift you need is understanding that money should buy genuine happiness, not just temporary excitement. This isn't about becoming a penny-pinching analyzer of every purchase. It's about developing self-knowledge that helps your spending align with what actually matters to you. Important balance. If this reflection becomes stressful, judgmental, or obsessive, you've taken it too far. The goal is gentle awareness, not perfect optimization of every financial decision. These 7 psychological patterns can improve spending decisions, but they require honest assessment about which ones actually fit your life and income level. Several of these strategies assume substantial disposable income that many Americans don't have, and that's important to acknowledge. The key insight isn't that you need to implement every approach. It's that conscious spending decisions tend to create better outcomes than impulsive ones. However, if tracking your financial psychology becomes stressful, judgmental, or socially isolating, you've probably taken it too far. Financial habits should simplify your life rather than complicate it. Choose 1 or 2 principles that feel sustainable and align with your actual circumstances, rather than trying to optimize every aspect of your money management. Remember that your worth extends beyond your bank account, and healthy financial decisions should support, rather than undermine, your relationships and mental well-being. Which of these spending psychology principles feels most realistic for your current situation? What's worked best for you in building mindful money habits? Share your experience below and subscribe for more practical financial insights that prioritize both wealth building and life satisfaction.